Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about the OA Season 1, Episode 5. It's called Paradise. Full spoilers for the episode as always. This was Hap showing perhaps his cruelty a little bit more than we'd seen up until this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's abducting people and keeping them captive.
But he's always seemed to treat them reasonably well. Like for captives. I mean, like when Prairie first got there, it was like, yeah, make the sandwich. Take them all sandwiches. I don't care. It feels like him feeding them the pellets is less out of cruelty and more out of he just can't be bothered to cook for them.
Yeah, there's a weird kind of contradiction almost to the way he is with them up until this point, where there's things like the pellets, there's things about the living conditions, there's things about a lot of the elements feel a little bit cruel or at least inhumane, whereas there is moments when he's talking to them and it feels like he has been a bit more like equal with them or whatever.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing. Like, and he does let her cook all these meals. We see so many meals that she cooks for all of them.
which honestly at this point makes me think he is more manipulative than he is actually genuinely nice when he's presenting himself that way.
Quite possibly. I wonder if it's not even that he sees what that he's doing as evil. It's more just it's very clinical, medical. It is like lab rats. Like why would he bother to feed them anything more? Because he doesn't see them as anything more than that.
Yeah. What he does in this one is particularly cruel though.
It was, and there's a moment where it almost seems like he's being again genuine and like letting them have a moment,
Yeah.
and then it kind of just flips it, and it's nope. It's just he's been a bastard.
Yeah, so the main plot of this one, at least the first half of the main plot, is Hap is going to Cuba because he's sourced another NDE that he wants to capture. A woman named Renata, whose skill is guitar playing, which leads me to think that maybe we don't even know Homer's actual talent yet, because we sort of speculated maybe it was his sports thing, but all the other ones we know seem to be music based. Violin, singing.
Yeah, but I'm sure he said early on they're all not necessarily music, but artistic. Like could be drawing, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, but we don't know what his is yet, though.
No.
Yeah.
But when Hap said early on, I don't think he limited to music. I think he just said artistic and creative.
Oh, no, but I mean, the reason why I'm bringing this up is we said maybe his skill is the sports stuff because he was a good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying that's clearly probably not the case. They all seem to be, so far, musically inclined. And that could extend to artistic since he said that, but I'm pointing that out though that they've all been very specifically tied to music at this point. And I don't know if I noticed, but see the music she was playing. Did at any point did it go into the similar sort of themes as the violin?
Not that I
stuff?
noticed. No,
Yeah.
it was because the singing didn't either. Really,
That's true.
it was very that sort of hypnotic, mesmerizing sort of lyrical that it was doing with the melodies.
They've all done that because the same way when she
Yeah.
plays guitar, like the entire room goes silent and they all just sort of zone in on
That's
it. And
what
I'm
I
like,
mean.
aye, it's nice, but come on, it's not that. It's not that good, guys. Come on, eat your dinner.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
So he tries to approach Renata, and she basically shoots him down pretty quickly. And his solution to this problem, he comes back to the cabin, and there's a great sort of tense scene where the local sheriff or whoever comes to the door, and everyone tries to make noise, and he puts on rock music, and he goes out and he acts compassionate about the sheriff's wife who's sick. She's dying slowly from a disease, and he appears to be the friendly doctor neighbour who's going to look into things for him. But again, I think this episode more than any of them have shown kind of his conniving, two-faced, putting up the appearance for these sort of things. Even when he goes to see Renata for the first time, he tries to be almost flirty and tries to be alluring and talking to her, and he's and you really get a sense of it in this episode when we see both sides of him, and he becomes aware that Homer is kind of like the ringleader in the cells, that he is the group leader who's motivating them all to do things and work together, and he doesn't really know why they're doing this weird dance of movements that he's noticed them doing. He doesn't understand what they are, but he seems to be the driving force of it. So he takes Homer on the plane and goes to Cuba with him. His plan to use him to lure Renata
Yeah,
back.
it's just real creepy.
It is real creepy. It's creepy in a lot of ways because obviously one touch that I really enjoyed was when Homer, they're in the hotel room and he like sort of he keeps the shower running and he like runs off. See, as he's running through the hallways of the hotel, it's very reminiscent of the hospital stuff when he died last episode. Or
It was, and for a moment I was thinking, hang on, was that like a premonition almost of this environment?
it may have been like, for example, because in like the next scene, or not the next scene, but after he's like back with him, and they go to dinner, and that's when he sees Renata for the first time. They're eating dinner. I wonder what he was eating. Was it fish?
I wonder if it was.
Yeah, just and the whole idea that he got the fish out of the tank that looked like the cells, and she's now like the newest person in the cells. Like, I'm wondering if the whole thing was like a premonition,
Symbolic
of this
metaphor, yeah.
of this little trip. I don't know. Just some pondering there, and but before we get to what the plan is and what he does with her, it's just like he actually gets outside, but he's in Cuba, and Hap's already told the employees, "Oh, my son's got brain damage, and he might, act." And he's like, "Yeah, what are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Were you going to tell them to go like what in a mine? Like there's like 500,000.
Yeah, he goes,
of
there's a
those."
mine. He's like, how many can there be of those? Yeah, 500,000 in North America alone.
I think my favourite part of that scene is that Homer really tries to convince himself of things. Like he's like, "Oh, the FBI can find him in like 24 hours, 12 hours even." I'm like, nah, that's not right, Homer. Yeah. I won't buy that for a second. You're trying to convince yourself into thinking this is the best thing to do here is to run off and like tell someone. And if he was in an English speaking country, he might have a chance.
Yeah, maybe, but he's still kind of at a disadvantage because, like I say, he's got no information of the location. There's only a certain amount of time before they will starve.
Oh no, yeah. As for them, like getting to them, sure. But in an English-speaking country, he'd at least have enough time to save himself. Like he could go to anyone and just quickly say what the problem is. He's been abducted. This is what his name is. So even if like Hap takes him away, like this information could get to the police and it could leave a trace, and they'd have an idea of who they're looking for at least.
Yeah, but you say that it's the same reason he doesn't as to why Prairie didn't when he was dying from his tomato allergy. She could have, tried to leave.
I know why he didn't. He brings it up. He says they'll all starve to death. Like I know why he doesn't. I'm saying, but even here it feels helpless. Even if that wasn't the case, it feels helpless because everyone's just looking at him like, "What? We're in Cuba. What do you want us to do?" Like
it's true. Yeah.
But I just him trying to convince himself that it isn't, a waste of time or isn't a lost cause, and it totally being that. And obviously a lot of the stuff that's going on in the present day is Prairie's telling the story. Is that how like he's been captive for years at this point, and the little things like when he's on the plane and he wakes up, he can't handle the sunlight because he's been underground for years, by now, and how he's like terrified to even do things or even use a knife and fork because he's been so used to not.
He's forgotten how to use them, I think.
Yeah, so just that idea that captivity is just also a state of mind. It's not just the physical, I'm in a box and I can't do what I want. It's once you're out, you still feel that you shouldn't be allowed to do things. It's actually it's a thing you even see with like prisoners when they get out, kind of thing. Have you seen Shawshank Redemption?
No.
Yeah, that's well. First of all, shame on you.
I've seen like most of it at various points, and I've seen so much of it that I've just never bothered to sit down and watch the whole thing.
Well, shame on you. That is a travesty. Give him shit for that in the comments, please, people. But there's like a small little plot point in that where like one of the prisoners, when they get out, when they're at work, they have to ask. They ask if they can go to the toilet, and he's like, "You don't have to ask, just go. If you need to go, go." And just that simple thing, he's so used to having to do that. It's a much smaller, simpler version of that, but it's the same kind of thing, where you've been conditioned so long that. All that's going on, but yeah. So Hap's plan is to get Homer to lure her up to the hotel room, and she does, and they kind of have like a heart to heart. And I wonder if maybe the reason why that she still shares like a connection with him, even though he's like, I mean, he's supposed to be like, maybe Hap's intention isn't for him to fully seduce her, but he's at least meant to be going along with the idea that that's what's kind of maybe going to happen.
Yeah, like he has to get her up to his room.
But he's kind of standing there being nervous as hell, and you kind of like why would she go with them? Why is she even around for longer than a minute? He's not acting in an appropriate way. But she sticks around, and I have to wonder if the reason for that is maybe because she senses like the connection, like that they all, like as soon as she started playing the music in the restaurant, he like was mesmerized, and it makes sense.
Maybe the idea that they're meant to do this stuff together.
Yeah, if not the stuff, at least they recognize it in each other. That they recognize the signs, they recognize what's going on, and they end up having sex. She like sort of has a connection with them, and they start having sex. And Hap walks in the room as they're starting, and
with the gas mask.
He's ready to be all rapey and
like, come on, let's get her on the plane.
Yeah, abductive and all that. And he backs out, and you think, again, is this him giving him a moment? Is this him be like, oh no, he's let him have this release?
It feels like I'll let him have this one night, and then he'll be maybe better when we get him back.
Yeah. However, in his hotel room, he's on his laptop. He's got the cameras for the cells up, and he's looking at that. He's listening to them in the other room having sex because we've established by this point that he's mic'd up. He's got a mic on.
He even told him that.
Yeah, and he starts playing the audio of them having sex in the cells, and they all have to hear it. And Prairie hears it, and it's also worth mentioning before this, earlier on, before Hap came in and got Homer, there was a couple of moments where we see like Prairie and Homer just like kind of connecting silently, like touching the glass, on the opposite sides. And
probably what we should have had before last episode said they were like, was it for her?
Yeah. Like that was my complaint last episode, but they were showing it here, and it's fine. And like, but Hap sees this, and this is why it's especially cruel, because he knows how much this will hurt her.
Yeah.
And they all hear it, and I love that she is silent for a while, and then she goes, "He's alive," like as if she's relieved that he's alive, but it's obviously torture to hear this.
Yeah, but it is the first time I think we've really seen him be actively vindictive.
Yeah, that seemed particularly evil. Even if no, it serves a purpose. Like if you take all it doesn't necessarily seem like a revenge type thing. It's more in this idea that he's the ringleader. Look, it's twofold. On the one hand, he's the ringleader, so he can influence people, which is why he can maybe influence Renata to lure her in. On the other hand, by breaking down the bond between them, it ruins this plan of rebellion, this plan of possible escape, or whatever they're up to, whatever he suspects.
But the way he does it, it feels like it's more than that. It feels like it's personal. And it's like the first time I've got that feeling from him. Yeah,
there's like a moment just as before he presses the button, you can see him thinking. You can see the gears churning in his head, which is good acting on Jason Isaacs' part.
Oh, definitely, he's doing a great role in this.
I love how it cuts back into the cells, and maybe not immediately. There's some present day stuff that we'll get to, but we're back in the cells, and we see Renata's in the cell, and Homer seems to have moved. He was originally in the one next to Prairie, but he's like kind of in the opposite one now. I love how it cuts to that, and Homer's just like sitting there, like just in shame because he's lured this woman into captivity, and she's just like banging on the glass, screaming at him, saying how much she hates him.
Yeah,
and this is when so obviously that's a whole thing, but at this point, this is when Scott's kind of like, because they're broken. This is kind of them at their worst point. They've completely lost their trust with each other. Everything seems sort of like desolate and hopeless at this point. Almost by happenstance, like Scott gets gassed, but the gas pump doesn't work properly. Like it kind of starts and it sputters and it doesn't come through. And Hap's like, all right, I'll just take him, not knocked out. So Scott actually goes to the experiment room completely awake.
Yeah, and he'd already said at this point that he was feeling ill, and he wasn't sure he could even take it. He wouldn't come back if he went out this time.
Yeah, and Hap's about to gas him actually, and Scott just no, I won't resist. I'll do it. And Hap's okay, no, it's up to you. But he tries to bargain with him, and he's and your heart sinks when he lets him know that Prairie can see.
Yeah, but there was a line of dialogue that threw me off.
Which one was that?
So we were saying that surely he's rotating through them for these experiments.
Yeah.
But he says she's been able to see since her last NDE, since you hit her in the head, which implies he hasn't killed her in this test since then,
I wouldn't play that, yeah.
which, just seems kind of weird to me. Why is she there?
Prep, like they'll get to her. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe he's hoping the interaction between them does stuff as well. Maybe that's part of the
It could be.
the experiment. But he tries to bargain with him, and he gives him this information. And, he basically tells Hap everything that Prairie, the OA has been saying. Oh, that she believes we're angels and they can open a celestial door and take them to, and I quote, another dimension.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, I was pleased with that
Well,
line.
that said, we got that they also believe it's other dimensions. Does not necessarily
true.
mean it is.
Yeah, but at least if the characters are thinking the same lines as us,
Yeah.
I feel vindicated enough.
Yeah, we had the same amount of information as them.
And Hap kind of like isn't paying attention when he puts the water in, and Scott dies. Scott just you see blood coming from his ears, which by the way really made me squirm.
Yeah.
And he dies, and Scott he gets carried back to his cell, and Hap just throws him in there, and he's like, Prairie, this is your fault, you lied to me, this is on you. And he purposely puts the dead body back in the cell so they all have to stare at it, they all have to live with this.
So there's a few moments of that he was vindictive at this point. Obviously, just before he killed him, he said, I want the gas, please give me the gas. And he just went, no, you can take this awake.
Yeah.
Which goes against his experiment, because his whole thing was he wanted to remove the human element. He wanted it to be pure, cold, hard fact. So he didn't want them to be conscious for it. So, but this time he was willing to just do it just out of spite, maybe.
Maybe, but him putting the body back in there is you can argue that maybe playing the audio earlier was purely just no, this is a purpose. I'm doing this to get this response, this reaction, because I need this reaction. Him putting the body back in was nothing but vindictive revenge.
Especially, maybe it wouldn't have been, but we'd already seen what he did with the body before with August, and that didn't go back in.
It didn't. No, this was here. This is your fault. You all have to stare at this dead body for the next however long it's going to be before he decides to come in and remove it.
Yeah.
It inspires Prairie to start doing the motions again. This dance, I'm calling it a dance. I don't know if that's the right word.
It seems like a dance.
Yeah. We'll call it motions. And she starts doing them again, because we've seen them practicing at the start of the episode. And Homer starts doing it as well. And they get really into it. And they're doing slightly different things, but they're kind of overlapping the motions. There's small differences to the way they're doing it. And this is when we get to the end of the episode, and it gives us this big, oh crap, they can actually do something.
Yeah, because it seems like it implies, at least to me, they're doing that all night, the way it kind of looks.
Certainly for hours, for a couple of hours.
Because obviously it does that kind of purple glow and then fades out. He's in bed.
The lighting's changed, yeah.
We see, I can't remember which one of the girls it was, but it looks like she's been asleep.
Yeah, because the camera's on Rachel, and that's when the lighting changes. It's on her. It's a shot on her where the lighting changes. And they're doing this for however long. So presumably sometime into the night. And it keeps going, and the music starts building up. And it's a song that comes in. It's not a score. There's a track that starts playing. And the other characters in the cell start to notice that the blood around Scott starts to sort of retract,
suck back in.
Yeah, because it's it's obviously didn't die in there, but the blood kept pouring out when he gets thrown down. So it's almost like if someone gets shot and there's a pool of blood emanating from the body, and it starts to suck back in and come back into the body, and he breathes again, and he wakes up back to life. And this is the first time he's ever remembered his NDE.
Yeah.
At least in these experiments, presumably he remembered whatever one he had when he was younger,
Yeah, because they ask him about him in this, and he says he never spoke about it because why would he? Because he knew people didn't want to hear about that.
And he wakes up, and he is because we're kind of pissed, even though he died, we're kind of pissed because he did tell Hap all this information. He did try and sort of sell them out to benefit himself, and whatever. Yeah. But he immediately is like, no, Prairie was right. I've seen it. Seen the animal. There's 5 parts of the dance. The motions that we need to do. I'm part number 3. So the other two, obviously Rachel and Renata, need to get their parts.
Yeah.
But so presumably when all 5 of them get their parts, that's when they can open the celestial door.
I would assume so. The tunnel, as he calls it.
Yeah, the tunnel. And of course, Hap sees this on his camera, and he runs down. Like, he sees him getting up, and he runs down, and that's just how we end the episode, with them all staring at him holy crap, he just got. Because obviously, in a show about NDEs, there's been a lot of kind of dead, sort of your brain dead for a couple of minutes kind of things. But no, this guy was a corpse. The blood was pouring out of him.
Hours.
Yeah, he was gone. This was bringing straight back to life. So.
Yeah.
And I think this is a smart time in the season for this, though, because first of all, it makes it interesting for his character, because he's been so dead set against everything, and he's been so cynical, and so this is all bullshit. What's the point? Spinning him around and making him a full believer completely changes the dynamic of the group, and it keeps things fresh and interesting again. Mm. So I think that's a very smart move, and I think it's very exciting to do that at this point in the season.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And plus him flat out saying all this stuff is real and whatever. Renata might still be hard to convince, although admittedly she's just seen a dead man come back to life.
And
so
it's also, they're all calling her the OA at this point now.
They are, yeah.
Which I feel like is part of that acceptance as well. No, this is what is going on. This is part of that belief.
Yeah, I would almost have a minor complaint though. They didn't kind of acknowledge that it started calling her that, because obviously we had the moment at the end of the last episode where, I have this other name, it sounds like a way, and he almost says it. But so when he started shouting at her, OA, for forgiveness in this episode, I was like, oh right, so that's just normal now. Okay.
Yeah, I guess there's just been some time passed between episodes that we didn't see.
Yeah, but yeah, sure, but it felt weird to not have a definitive moment where, oh right, they're calling her away now.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit strange, but no, I can't deny that the end of the episode was pretty exciting and everything coming together.
Yeah, because that's when it cuts back to the present and gives us probably the most important part of the present yet, where it tells us what's going on.
What she's doing. Her goal is to get them back, because they're still in this other dimension, and she's going to teach these 5 the moves, the motions, so that they can open the door and get them back.
Yeah, I think they're called movements.
Yeah, and it does make me ask the question though: why can't Prairie be one of the 5 now still?
Well, because she said you 5 will make it, and she's going to go through. So maybe they literally physically become the tunnel. So you need a 6th person to enter it, maybe.
Well, how did they all get in there though?
They died. I'm sticking to that. They're all dead.
Then how can the how does that make sense? If they're all dead, how can they be brought back from there? If them dying's what, how did they? If they made the tunnel and went through it,
right? So, but are we assuming this point the place on the other side of the tunnel is the same places that we're seeing when they die and have their NDEs? Yeah.
Maybe.
Right. Okay. See, I was assuming it was the same place. If it's something else, then that is different. Yeah, that ruins my theory.
Especially since Homer's turned out to essentially be a premonition, from what we could tell.
From what we can tell, yeah.
Which lines up with the fact that Prairie's dreams were mostly premonitions before.
Yeah.
So certainly there's precedent for that. It's not just, sort of aiding all this stuff as well. There's a scene with Prairie and our FBI psychiatrist, and she talks about, the other's been taken off the board when he's trying to ask her about them, where are they, can they still be saved, that kind of thing. And she kind of smiles, and he doesn't quite understand, and she uses this metaphor of being off the board, and he thinks her saying that I want to get off the board means suicide, but obviously we know it's more than that. It's obviously more complicated, unless she's just crazy, but she still might be. Well,
they also kind of established that this did at least happen to some degree, maybe not the trips, but she was a large portion must have happened. Like I said, there's physical evidence.
Oh yeah, but remember we said that though this could just be her coping with those memories.
It could, yeah.
And remember, everything we're seeing in these flashbacks is her telling the story. It's unreliable in that sense. It could all be a lie.
We'll find out when they try and open this tunnel and what happens there, if anything happens.
Even that could still be a lie. That could still just be a metaphor for whatever way she does get out of the situation.
No, no, I mean in the present when they try and open this tunnel.
All right, aye. Yeah, aye, they could all just stand there like a bunch of idiots doing all all these
Yeah,
moves
yeah.
and nothing happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would actually be a really amusing ending to the show.
It would be amusing, but extremely unsatisfying.
The troll in me would appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
I liked how it cut to present day when Homer was having sex with Renata, and Alfonso was pissed about it. He's like, "How could he? Like he's that into the story. They're all into it.
Yeah. I'm not sure his reaction was entirely justified. How could he have physical contact with the first person he's had physical contact with in the last maybe 10 years? Who knows?
Well, it's not just that. I think it was a combination of that, and also the fact that he's luring her into the trap. Like it's.
Well, yeah.
And he's essentially given up and trying to escape while he's outside. Like I think it's all of it. I think the whole thing is what he's pissed about. Other small things though, we see more of him with his mother, and he's at his like fancy dinner for his scholarship and all the rest of it. Not too much. The scene with his mother, where the mother kind of gets pissed at him for trying to make her less of a drunk, essentially, and less of an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Was a really weird scene because it felt like, she's making a couple of valid points in there. Like she's kind of saying at one point, like between the weirder sentences, "Oh, you'll be a good man no matter what. You don't have to necessarily force yourself to do this specific thing," and that was a nice sentiment in there, but it's wrapped up in
this drunken hypocrisy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I gave you a life, blah 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 blah. You should.
Yeah, she was saying like you work the jobs, but you don't actually know what it's like to live out there, and it's like, well, yeah, that's probably why he wants to go off to college and live on his own without having to deal with this.
With this.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel that encompassed it pretty well, to be honest.
But yeah, that was pretty much it. It was mostly flashbacks this week. Not
there was only like that brief intercut. We had the bit where they had dinner at school.
Yeah, but that just kind of led into that scene because it was because the teacher who likes Alfonso was sort of like trying to question why he was hanging out with this group, and they were all just sort of debating again. Which again, I like the stuff that like them debating what's true and what's not, and would you do this? Would this kind of thing in between. Yeah,
because it feels like what we would do, like what we are doing. We're questioning things, even though we're except it's a TV show and like sure this could be happening, we're still questioning if it's real or if it's a coping mechanism, which is kind of to a degree what they're doing as well.
Yeah, is she cuckoo or is she actually an angel? I guess we might find out at the end of the season. I
hope so. I mean, I'd be a little bit disappointed if we don't.
I don't know. I feel like this is the exact sort of show that would play the ambiguity of it and it would work.
Okay, you don't have to tell me whether or not she's an angel per se, but at least give me some resolution as to whether all of this did happen or not. Like if it is real or if it is just a story. I feel like I want to know.
I don't think I need to.
I would agree if it wasn't trying to replicate events in the present. If she wasn't trying to physically create a tunnel and save people.
Well, it depends how they handle that. It depends.
Yeah.
Like, if it actually is about saving them, and we actually get a scene of her going through this tunnel and getting them back, or finding out what happened to them if they're not there anymore. Like maybe they all came back and they're all still in the cells. So, they woke up, they came back through or whatever. Like,
yeah,
intrigued to find out. So that's episode 5 of the OA. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. We'll be back with episode 6 later today, so you can look out for that. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.